probably less dangerous, but a much tougher regime. In Singapore, the prison was Tanamera, so it was maximum security. Everything is very regimental. It's modelled off of some sort of military regime. You have to squat down when you see an officer and say good morning, sir, and things like that. I'm sure you don't see them in too many English prisons, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's tough. Everybody's a triad gang member. I was the only exception. Other English inmates who might have had a drug offence or something, they had to choose sides in terms of who they wanted to support. And the boredom is unbelievable. You're locked up for 24 hours a day, so your daily regime would be somebody waking you at 6 o'clock in the morning, giving you your breakfast to the cell. So it would be 3 pieces of bread and a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. At lunchtime, you'd go out into the yard for an hour. So I used to run for the hour. Then you'd go back to the cell, do a little bit more exercise. Food would be delivered about 12. So it would either be chicken, a fish, which was quite small and had lots of bones and the head on it still, so I wasn't too keen on that. Or mutton, some fairly old, pretty rank sort of lamb. And rice, which you're not used to eating 3 times a day, so you have to kind of get used to that. And then your dinner would arrive at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then lights out about 8 o'clock at night. And there's nothing in the cell. They're pristine white. You sleep on the floor. There's enough room for 3 of you, and there's a hole in one corner where you go to the toilet, and there's a small barrier that kind of dissects that a little bit. There was one advantage of Singapore because there was so much control over what goes on. It's fairly safe. There is violence, and the violence is really quick, really brutal, but you can avoid it. When something does happen, and there would be gang clashes, so you get a gang clash every now and again, and there would be weapons that would be used that they're either brought back from workshops or they've made themselves somehow from a toothbrush. The guards would come in, commando guards with full battle gear on, with big sticks, and they would start hitting people over the head unless you were on the floor holding your head in your hands. So it was brutally put down, but it maintained a degree of safety within the prison. So I never really had any issues. I had one sort of disturbance with one of the main people in my wing on one occasion, but I used to kickbox when I worked in the city, so I was able to sort of survive the 30 seconds or so that was required in that. I used to get a lot of letters, so you'd get the letters Monday to Friday, not the weekends. So on a Monday, you'd start, the thought process would be that you've got a 1 in 5 chance of getting a letter that day. And then if it doesn't arrive, the next day it's 1 in 4, so it's an improvement. So as long as you can reframe the way that you're thinking about different things and break it down into smaller periods. So visits were few and far between, but you could look forward to those. So it's all about reframing how you think about things in order to survive. But yeah, it's tough. Whilst I was in prison in Singapore, they used to regularly change my cellmates because they didn't want them getting too friendly with me, maybe. So they would change my cellmates on a fairly regular basis. And on one time, I'd had a couple of Malay inmates that were getting on quite well. They were from different gangs, but they shared a religion, so they would pray and do that sort of stuff. And there was no reason to change them. But the guards turned up and they said, "Oh, we've got to they bring you out of the cell, empty the cell completely. There's nothing in the cell anyway. It's not a great deal to empty." And they brought us all out, and then they said they were changing my cellmates. I said, it's ridiculous, right? So I said, look, I'm not going back in the cell then. And so they decided that for my disobedience that they'd send me to the punishment cells. So I stayed in the punishment cells for about 31 days. The door never opens. The daylight is blocked out. They turn the lights off during the day and they turn them on at night. So there's a bit of sensory deprivation. But your food is given through a cat flap in the door. So it's a lot tougher, and there's nothing in the cell. So you literally can walk up and down, that's it. And you work out that if you walk up and down 750 or 755 times, that's an hour. And that's how you pass the time for 31 days. So I went back down to the general area, and then about an hour or so later, I was called for a visit, and it was the British vice consul who was there. So she said that, I'd lost a bit of weight, didn't look particularly well, my eyes were bloodshot. Obviously, I'd been in the punishment cells, and starting to get a bit of pain in my stomach. So I went to see the doctor in the prison. He then took some blood tests. My red cell blood count was low, so he gave me some iron tablets, and that was it. So I'd go back, and the iron tablets would arrive every day. Take those. Pain's not getting any better. They took me to a hospital close by. It was in A&E, and the doctor who came down found the lump straight away. So he said, I'm going to need to send you to the ward upstairs. The guards have got guns, there's big double doors, and you're chained to the bed. So it's a little bit over the top. One day when I was there, they'd done a couple of investigations. By this stage, they'd decided that it's cancer. And they told my lawyer, and they found me curled around the bowl in the toilet bowl, just because the tumour had got so big that it pushed onto my lung and collapsed my lung, so that I was incapacitated in the toilet. So they took me down for an emergency operation. They removed the tumour that was 10 centimetres by 7 centimetres, and then I had 38 staples in my stomach, and then after a couple of days, they took me back to the prison. And then they said that they wanted to give me chemotherapy inside the prison, but I refused the chemotherapy on the basis that I wasn't going to let them leg cuff me to the bed. To which they were all aghast. They were showing me the rules and regulations that you have to go. But then eventually they made a decision that I could go and just be like a day patient, and go and get the chemo for 5 days, or 5 continuous days, and then it'd be 3 weeks off. So I did that for 6 months, and then that would have been August of 1998, and then I was released in July of 1999. I wasn't released early or anything. Everybody gets a standard 1/3 remission, so I would have been released in accordance with those rules. After I fled Singapore on the 23rd of February, the sort of chronology from that sort of point would have been the 24th. Everybody would have been aware that the bank was insolvent, couldn't trade anymore, and they were running around trying to do their best to rescue it. That would have continued over the weekend, 25th and 26th of February, with the Bank of England. And on the Monday, which is the 27th of February, the bank was ultimately sold for £1 to ING. I think the Barings name is still out there in the US. I think it's the fund management side of it. Barings Asset Management was never taken over by ING, so Barings Asset Management has always been around since the collapse of the bank. They didn't offer me my job back. As to the question of whether no bank is too big to fail, I mean, it's a difficult one. I think banks are an important part of the infrastructure of many countries, and there probably are one or two that are too big to fail because they're involved in so many different transactions at so many levels. I mean, I think Lehman's is probably the obvious example. What ensued after the collapse of Lehman was a global financial collapse because there was fear, there was panic, and Lehman's were involved in so many different transactions at different levels. With Barings, it was one country, it was all in Singapore, it was all in one product, which was the Nikkei 225, so it was easy to contain. And what you find now is that a lot of trading is done within the hedge fund industry. Yeah, nobody else went to prison. There were a few of the directors that were banned from holding other directorships for a period of time. I'm often asked if I think that's just. Yeah, probably. They didn't do anything criminal. Their only thing that they're guilty of is, a fairly high level of stupidity to allow it to happen. They've got to look at themselves in the mirror. I think that's the most damning thing that they have to do in relation to their involvement in the collapse of Barings. But I'm I was released from Singapore in 1999. I signed an injunction for £100 million whilst I was at Heathrow Airport from the liquidators, and then was spirited away in a car. And then slowly from there, you kind of have to get back into life. And being in prison for 4.5 years, you're not quite institutionalized, but you're not used to making decisions, on a very basic basis. I wasn't used to wearing shoes because you walk around barefoot in Singapore for nearly 4 years whilst you're in prison. So it took some reacclimatization. Everybody was going to work on a Monday, and I was kind of left there feeling a bit empty. So it was important I put some structure back in my life. So I did a psychology degree for 3 years in Middlesex, and then met somebody, remarried, and moved to Ireland. In those first months and years, the liquidators were paying me a monthly stipend to continue to help them, but also that was based on me needing more medical advice as I was continuing my recovery from cancer. So, I used to say to the liquidators, if I go and get a job, what do you want? And they said, well, we want half of what you're earning. And that was, regardless of where the job was. So, I did TV interviews. There's one in Holland that went to the liquidators. Obviously, I'd serialised my return in the Daily Mail. That went to the liquidators. And then, given the opportunity to do some after-dinner speaking, I always used to be quite introvert, which was a million miles away from being extrovert, so wasn't used to that sort of environment. But, I've been doing it for 26 years now, so I've got quite good at it. And I talk at keynote conferences as well and give addresses there talking about risk management, compliance, and the importance of corporate governance. I do a bit of corporate intelligence work these days. That's kind of that. It's moved slightly to the side of that as well. That we look at some scams that people have got involved in where they've lost money, and we try to repatriate those funds. We have a number of cases with the financial ombudsman at the moment. I wrote the book Rogue Trader whilst I was in prison in Germany. I had nothing to do with the movie. So David Frost made the movie. He obviously recruited Ewan McGregor to take my role within the movie. The movie is taken from the book, so it's accurate. People driving around in Porsches in Singapore, it didn't happen. Me driving a beaten up old car going to the airport, it didn't happen. But that's the way movies get made, I suppose. So. I don't think any bank is really too much at risk from people going rogue these days. The controls are so much better. The quality of people in those roles is so much more superior than it ever has been. You've got, real-time data that is helping the situation as well. The problem is that you still have very niche areas that aren't getting the amount of surveillance and scrutiny that they should. So if you look at the more recent cases of financial scandal, there's one at Macquarie Bank, which was during the COVID period. Absolutely astonished that happened, but still, it didn't get to a bit more than 30 million, right? Still a big number, but there were a set of unique circumstances around COVID and working from home. You've got some family firms, Bill Huang, and the losses at Archegos Capital. Part of the family firms wasn't really an area that had ever been looked at. So it's been looked at, and the single stock exposure that he had was huge. Again, the lack of oversight and the lack of communication between the banks and sharing information, I think was quite shocking during that one. You've got FTX, which is in the crypto space where they're trying to avoid all sorts of regulation. Very, systemic breakdown, kind of like Bearings. The auditors weren't doing their job again. The regulators